Merry Fishmas, everyone, and welcome to a very special fishy episode of GeoDuck GeoScience. Today we ask the question, when is an American fossil actually not? Prepare to deep dive into the history of one of paleontology's greatest mysteries and how a great fossil detective was able to finally solve it. Namely, what is the deal with these fish? In 1878, renowned paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope of the Bone Wars infamy described 7 species of fish from the Niobrara Chalk Formation of late Cretaceous Dakota, which were given to him by legendary geological surveyor Ferdinand van Diver Hayden. These fish were curiously all from genera previously only known from Lebanon and in a couple of cases Germany, but which were not previously known from America and did not appear to have broad geographic distributions. So their place in American rocks creates a biogeographic mystery in terms of how they got there. And things got kind of weird when no one else who studied late Cretaceous North American rocks were able to find similar fish or work out where these specimens were found by comparing the sediments around them with those of Dakota's stratigraphy. Even Cope himself didn't recover any similar fish in his own later expeditions. So they were quite a mystery in terms of exactly how fish from these genera, which don't seem to have otherwise been globally widespread, ended up in Dakota. In 1903, fish-loving paleontologist Oliver Hay took a look at the bones and drew lots of handy diagrams of them, and he noted that on the backs of the fish fossils was written the word Yankton in pencil marks. So he assumed that they were found near the town of Yankton in Dakota, and noted that all of the fish found in Yankton looked suspiciously like fish from Lebanon, expressing an interest in doing future work in Yankton to see if he could uncover the answer to this biogeographic mystery. Now, here at GeoDuck Geoscience, we love biogeographic mysteries, and so did this chap, Professor David Bardack. Now, in the 1960s, Bardack looked through Hayden's notes from the region from his surveys, and he couldn't find any record of Hayden ever actually having found these mysterious fish. So he asked geologist and researcher Fritjof Frixell, yes, that is his real name, who was at the time compiling Hayden's work to write a biography on him, and Fritjof Frixell couldn't find anything referencing to Hayden or any of the members of Hayden's team ever having found those fish in that area. It was beginning to look like Hayden had never actually found those fish at all. So Bardak engaged in some field work. According to his 1967 paper on his investigation, he engaged in several weeks' worth of fieldwork all along the Missouri River, along areas where Hayden surveyed. And according to his paper that he did on his investigation, he did actually find fossil fish, but they were all other kinds of fish that other researchers had found in the formation, and not any of the kinds of fish that Edward Drinker Cope had described. So, after exhausting his fieldwork options, Bardak decided to look at the rock matrix surrounding Cope's fossils under a microscope, and he found the greatest things ever. And I say that unironically because I am a micropaleontologist who specializes in these things. He found forams. For anyone who doesn't know, forams are a group of shelled single-cell organisms that live in all marine and salty environments, and they can tell us a lot about past climate, about the age of sediment, and sometimes where in the world that sediment comes from. And this is a great example of that, because Bardak didn't just look at the forams from this rock, he also sampled rocks from the Sahel Alma in Lebanon, where fish just like these ones were found. And he sampled from rocks in the Niobrara Formation in Yankton, where the fish were supposedly from. Once he had the samples, he sent them to legendary Mesozoic micropaleontologist Emil Passagno, back when he was just starting out and before he had reached legendary status yet. And Passagno identified a ton of overlap between the species present in Lebanese rocks and the species present around Cope's fish. But there was barely any overlap at all when he compared Cope's fish to the species of forams in their supposed source rock in Yankton.
And the plot thickens!
But before Bardack could write his paper and conclusively say with certainty that these were Lebanese fossils that somehow got mislabeled somewhere along the line as being from America, Bardack had to do a little bit more detective work, just to be concrete and certain. And this is what led to him doing some X-ray diffraction work on the sediments to examine their chemistry. And he got X-ray diffraction patterns from Cope's fish that looked notably more like the Lebanese material than they do the other samples from the Niobrara. So, again, it's starting to look way more like these fish are actually from Lebanon as opposed to America. But then he got even more evidence. You see, Bardack got a mineralogist to look at the sediments. Enter Dr. B. Woodland. I actually have no idea who Dr. B. Woodland is. I am very sorry. This is where my research hit a dead end. But the mysterious Dr. Woodland's mineral analysis revealed that the sediments from both Cope's fossils and Lebanon contained clasts of montmorillonite, which is a clay mineral, and quartz, and were really similar to one another mineralogically, whilst the ones from Yankton also contained tons of chlorite, feldspar, and illite, and had much less quartz in them than the other two samples. The sediments from Lebanon and in Cope's mystery fish also had tons of a mysterious green mineral that Dr. Woodland couldn't identify.
A nugget of purest green!
Which means that it's not exactly a common mineral if a mineralogist isn't sure what it is. So, yet another very, very big piece of evidence that these fish came from Lebanon. So, based on mineralogy, forams, and X-ray diffraction, all of the evidence that Bardack found pointed firmly towards the answer to the great American fish mystery, being that the fish aren't from America at all, they were from Lebanon, and someone just mislabeled them by accident and probably sent the wrong one to Cope or something.
But hey, that's just a theory. A fish theory.
And now on to the Rockman segment.
That's right, everyone. It's time for our weekly-ish. I say weekly-ish because it's been 3 months since we've done it, because life. Episode of Rockman. What's Rockman? For those of you who don't know, this is Rockman. Rockman is the sentient weapon which I shall use to take over the world. But you can stop me if you guess all of the letters in his activation code, which is a geological phrase. Every episode, you guess a letter, and if it's right, it goes on the board, and I am ever closer to failing. But if it's wrong, another rock goes on Rockman, and I am closer to being your divine monarch, thanks to the power of Rockman. The most upvoted letter in our last video, which bombed cataclysmically so it didn't have many guesses, was Q, with only 2 upvotes. But hey, the guess was by friend of the channel Sky. So here's the question. Is Q on the board? No, it is not, which means another rock goes on Rockman. And thus he grows ever closer to completion. Do you have what it takes to stop the rise of Rockman? Put your guesses for the next letter in the comments below, and the most upvoted comment will get picked in the next episode. Now back to the video.
Thank you very much for watching. A huge shout out to my wonderful Patreon supporters, including my Radiolarian tier supporters, Hours, Vincent Place, Glenn Collins, Jean and Eric Feenstra, and my wonderful Dilophosaurus tier supporter, Geneva. Special shout out also goes to Sky McDavid, whose idea this episode was. Also want to thank Hours and Kiwi for their wonderful Ko-fi donations. Immensely appreciated at the moment. If you would like to get access to my videos early, as well as behind the scenes info, access to scenes from upcoming videos I'm working on, and just fun random randomness, as well as support me financially and be named at the end of my videos, you can do so on Patreon or support me one time on Ko-fi in the links below. To everyone else, remember to like, subscribe, or ring the bell icon to stay posted with what I create. And if you would like to see me talk about science whilst wearing a maid outfit, check out my upcoming debunk of the dangerous pseudoscience of Jordan Peterson. So, until next time.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Fishmas!